Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Out of the Box.
Today, May and I are going to be answering some of your guys' questions about adoption that you guys have let us know about, whether in the comments or on our Instagram story. So let's get into it. It's going to be interesting. There are questions all across the board, so there's not one specific topic we're talking about except adoption.
Okay.
So the first one is, I was adopted at 1 day old. My dad and his twin brother were adopted. How old were you?
So, G and I were adopted when we have two different answers because we've been told kind of two different things, but we've been told two different things. And my answer is what I've always known. G's is just like after we actually asked them for sure. So it's different. I say 2.5 because that's when they actually got us. But G will say 3 because that's not until the exact papers were.
Yeah. What I've heard is we met them when we were 2.5, whatever, and then we were officially adopted when we were 3.
See, and I just go based off when we left China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which part of China are you from? I was adopted from the Hunan province, southeast China. So May and I are from Anhui province, and yeah, we went back there when we were visiting China when we went back in 2008. It's a very small province, I don't know now because it's been a few years.
Yeah,
but it was poor.
Changed some.
And we're known as like jungle Asians because
I still don't understand that reference
because we're like tanner. But we're from Anhui and specifically like Hefei area.
Yeah.
The next question is, I'm sure there was culture shock. How was that experience different for you two?
So because G and I were adopted at a very young age, I really don't think there was that big of a culture shock until we grew up and we realized what even was a culture shock. Mm-hmm. But even then it wasn't that big because, well, we've been in it for so long already. And I think that's a positive when you are adopted so young. You just adapt to your environment.
Yeah.
I think it would be different if we were adopted when we were like 10 or 11. Obviously, there would be a culture shock there because, you know, you were able to settle down in your home country and then have to be moved. But because we were so little, I personally didn't experience one.
Mine specifically, I think, was the people. Just because, like, again, with adoption, you're coming from, you know your parents, you know the family you're with, to who are these people. Now you're supposed to meet your extended family as well. Like, you're taking it all in, all at once. You are coming from a family that you've been living with for a couple years and you know them, you see them every day, to now you're going away with these people and then you're expected to also meet your extended family. And I know with May and I, when we came off the airplane, our extended family was at the airport. So, like, we were right off the bat meeting random people. Next question is, when did your parents tell you that you were adopted?
Okay, so I know a lot of people ask this, and it's so weird to me because my parents never had to tell us. Like, it's so, like...
And that just might be the way that we were raised. Like, they constantly were telling us, and we were a little bit older. But also, like, I don't think any of our adoptive friends either were ever told they were adopted.
No, I think...
They just kind of knew.
I feel like when you are adopted at a young age and you do go through your, like, growth and stuff and you realize you don't look like anyone, whatever, like your mom and dad don't look like you obviously know you're adopted.
Or it leads you to question.
What surprises me is when I've heard adopted kids not know they were adopted, and I go, how do you not know?
Maybe they just didn't ask.
Yeah, there's just a few of those people that I know where I'm just like, how do you not know?
Yeah.
Most adopted kids know, and most of them don't need to be told.
Yeah. I know specifically with us, and this could be a major reason why we never really needed to ask if we were adopted, was our bedtime stories integrated adoption themes, if that makes sense.
True.
Like the theme of adoption. So, for example, like A Mother for Chaco was one of our favorite kid books, and it's basically about this bird trying to go find his mother. And he goes to all these different animals and asks them, are you my mother? And then at the end, he finds his mom. So, like, that is a theme of adoption.
His mom is not a bird.
And his mom was not a bird. It was a bear, I believe.
I don't
or
know.
something like that.
It was something else.
And so at the end of that story, it just shows that your mom doesn't have to look like you. And, like, it only stems from, like, are you loved in the proper way? Is someone looking after you, caring for you? That was the book that we were being told, like, almost every night, because that was our favorite book.
Yeah.
But it also gave the message of adoption to a little kid. So that
true.
could have played a huge role. And then, like, at the end, I think mom and dad would always be like, and that's, like, what we did with you guys, where, like, we went and we looked for you, and, like, this is why we don't look the same, and all that matters is that we love you, and that family aspect.
And I remember distinctly asking mom one day where it was just like, why do I not look like you? Or is it weird that I don't look like you? And mom would explain it, like, just like the book, and she's like, no, like, you are adopted. Obviously, we don't look alike, but that doesn't make me any less of a mom to you.
Yeah.
And I remember having those, like,
at what age?
Conversations, but, I want to say maybe between 9 and 10.
The next question is, do you ever wish you got to send your life updates to your birth parents, not talk to them? So, yes and no. There's a two-part to that. I mean, for me, I don't know about you. We've already hit major milestones, and I wish I could have told our birth parents just to, like, let them know that, like, life is good. We are accomplishing the things we are putting our minds to, what we want to aspire to be. But also I don't, because there's a little bit of me that's like, well, they never wanted me, so why should they ever get to know who I am and the person that I am today? One, you either didn't want us. Two, we were born during the one-child policy. And three, there could have been circumstances where our mom just wasn't able to take care of us.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it was, you never wanted me, whatever. So, like, why do I now have to let you in, you know? But, so that's it, like a two-parter. But with that, May and I have been privileged enough to at least send updates at least once a year to our adoptive family.
Foster,
sorry, not adoptive. Foster family. And we get responses back from them. Sometimes it does take a long time, but I think that is more so, like, heartwarming to see, because they have had a huge part in our life, or a huge role in our life. And to let them know that we graduated high school, that we graduated college with our degrees, and that we're now, like, independent, pretty much independent, and we're living alone. And we started this content creating stuff, and hopefully, I don't know if they'll be able to, like, follow us. I don't even know if we even asked that. But, like, they know they can find us on certain apps and YouTube. We had a relationship with them, or have to continue to. It is really heartwarming, especially because I know our foster mom really loves us as much as our siblings did too.
I honestly do. I really wish that I could call up my mom or, like, write her. More my mom than my dad. I don't know why. But, like, whenever there is a huge milestone or something I'm excited that I hit or accomplished a goal, always in the back of my head is like, damn, I wish I could, like, tell mom this. And not, like, my biological mom, not my adopted mom. My adopted mom knows mostly every single thing about me. But, like, whenever I do hit something big, I'm just like, damn, I wish I could, like, share this with her. Because, again, I wouldn't have been able to hit that goal or whatever if she didn't give birth to us. So, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of bittersweet where it's just, like, I'm happy and solid where I am and content where I am.
Yeah.
It's just always in the back of my head, I wish I could tell her all these great things that's been happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have that resentment or that part that you have where it's just, like, I like the part of me where it's like, I don't want you to know anything about me.
Yeah.
Because I always catch myself, I don't know where she is. In my head, I think our biological mother's dead. So I, like, kind of talk to her sometimes here and there. Does she hear it? No idea. But, like, I guess I do it just in hopes that she is either watching down on us and she already knows, or, like, wherever she is, that, like, she knows that we're doing okay or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Do you guys have any friends that were also adopted from China? Yes.
Yeah, actually, good amount.
A lot of our close friends are also adoptees. Like, many of my close friends are adoptees in general, but the majority of them are Chinese. I know our triplet, Jessica, is from China. We have a few friends that we met in college that are from China. And then even in elementary school, we were the first ones who were Asian in this white Catholic school. And then a couple years later, a family adopted a little Chinese girl.
Oh, yeah.
And started a Chinese group or club. And so then we became friends with those, that family. So, yes, we do have many of the same friends from China. Okay. Do you think adoption is represented well in the media?
No.
I don't even think it's in the media.
And that's also another reason why G and I kind of just started this podcast, because we've realized that, like, there's not many influencers or content creators that talk about adoption or who are adopted. When adoption is it's, like, becoming pretty damn common these days, and there's more people adopted than you realize. So for us to realize that there's really no one speaking about it,
or it's just not publicized enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not pushed out to the algorithm, or we're not searching certain videos that would lead us down a rabbit hole of adoption people.
But there's a lot of people that are, like, interested in adopting, what that, like, entails, or, like, there's so many other adoptees on our platforms that we had no idea were even following us. But because our content resonates with adoption and you are also adopted, it brings in a completely different group of people. And we all can experience most likely the same things. Not exactly the same, but we can all relate in a way.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think adoption is talked much about in the media, and it should be.
I think it's going to take time, and once, like May said, like, adoption becomes, like, more of a, not priority, but, like, popular option, I guess, and more people start talking about it, it will become better known in the media.
I think the only way for it to be talked more about in the media is if more people talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's also why G and I did this and started this podcast, because we realized that there are actually a lot of people who are adopted, who go through the same things that we have gone through, and it's actually kind of therapeutic to talk about, because if you are adopted, sometimes you don't have anyone to talk about it with.
Yeah.
So to get on social media and realize that, wait, there's actually a ton of other people who are adopted too who may not have anyone to talk about it with, can also relate, and you guys can talk together. It kind of brings a really close-knit community, which we love to see on all of our pages. I just think you can't really talk about adoption without other adoptees, because then you either get the guilt card or you get the, oh my god, I'm so sorry, like, whatever, and you can't really say what you want to say. Whereas if you talk about with other adoptees, like, they already know what you feel like. They've been through it, and no one tries to guilt you, tripped into you, or whatever. And you can actually say what you want to say, no matter how dark it can be, because, sad to say it, but a lot of adoptees have very dark humor, and that's just how we cope with it. Whereas if you say it to someone else who hasn't experienced adoption, they can take it completely wrong.
Yeah.
It's happened to G and I.
Yeah, which it's happened, but it's also like there's the part of you where it's like, oh, right, I need a filter when I'm talking to this person versus when I'm talking to my adoptee friend. But it's also not on us to filter on our story.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is, like, intellectually you do have to be like, oh, right, like, maybe some things I can't say to this person in this way because they might take it a certain way and flip it. But I know with adoptee friends, like, they'll probably say it before I can even spit it out. Or they'll be like...
Or it's just a laughter thing, which you need laughter and you need jokes to get through adoption, because a lot of people don't realize adoption can be great and amazing and all of that, but it can also be dark. It can be... You can hate it. You can be sad. You can feel it's traumatic. It's one of the most traumatic things, probably, that anyone could go through emotionally, because if you think about it, you're wiped from an entire life that you've known and placed somewhere new, and you have to rebuild. It doesn't matter how old you are when you were taken from your homeland or how young you were. Like, you experience it, and it's a chronic trauma. It's chronic PTSD because it affects every single thing in your life. You can run away from it as much as you can if that's what you choose to do, but you're going to hit it in every single thing in life.
I'm just going to leave it at, we need to keep talking about that, about adoption. The topic needs to still be in conversation, whether it's between you and your friends or like what May and I are doing with this podcast and answering questions about being adopted or about the community. Because it is important, and it's important to let people know who are in the adoption community or those searching to adopt, to know that there are going to be great things, but there's also going to be negative things when it comes to being an adoptee. But we're not taking it for granted. We're not telling you what to do or how to adopt a child or how you should feel if you're an adoptee. It's just experiences from an adoptee perspective.
Yeah.
So, if there are more questions on specifically adoption related, make sure to leave them in the comments, because we can do more sit-downs about adoption. If you have any more topics relating to adoption, not necessarily questions about May and I's experience, also let us know. I know we can probably get a couple of our adoptee friends to also come on this podcast and kind of talk about how their experience about coming to America and such. That could also be interesting. With that is the end of today's episode. Make sure to keep listening, keep loving, and keep enjoying the journey you're on, and we will see you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye, guys.